you struck me when we were talking to Clinton in 1996. Could you ever guess that in 2026, you'd be seeing some of these same issues? Like when you see how the loop of history doesn't close but continues, how do you keep it rolling?
Well, before I answer that, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming out. Bring the lights up a little because, I mean, you know, we come from New York, so being here in Chicago, we want to see all of you.
I'm going to give you a real question. Do you want some water? Shall we have someone bring you some?
Sure.
Let's bring Amy some water. But in all seriousness, the parallels between then and now.
What can I say? One other thank you. I just have to thank.
Good luck, Sylvia.
I'm here for it.
I just have to thank Carl Deal and Tia Lesson. They are remarkable directors, Oscar-nominated directors of Trouble the Water about Hurricane Katrina. Tia Lesson just recently won 3 Emmys for The Janes, the documentary about the Chicago abortion underground in the 1960s. They did Citizen Coke and other documentaries with Michael Moore as producers. They are master directors and weavers and storytellers. And what they did is a gift to independent media, because to be able to go through 30 years of Democracy Now!, starting, as you said, so in 1996 when Democracy Now! Began, we actually just had our 30th anniversary in New York at Riverside Church, where Dr. King gave that speech against the war in Vietnam and here to the day before he was assassinated, April 4th, 1967, talking about the corporate media at the time. I have the Life magazine issue that excoriated him for doing a disservice to his cause, his country, his people, for his script, his speech sounding like a script out of Radio Hanoi. He just doubled down, because he said materialism, racism, militarism, they are all connected. Dealing with the corporate media back then. So we went to Riverside Church, 2,000 people packed in. Juan, who's going to be here tomorrow night, so for your friends and family, and even you yourselves, if you want to come back, he is now a Chicago resident. Juan flew in and spoke, and then Hooray for the Riff Raff sang Palante, the name of his newspaper, Ever Forward, when he was, as he described here, one of the founders of the Young Lords in New York. They started here. And then Nermeen Sheikh spoke, co-host of Democracy Now!, and Michael Stipe sang of REM, and then Angela Davis spoke, and Mossab Abu Toha, the Pulitzer Prize-winning Palestinian poet, who read his poem Under the Rubble. Then Patti Smith got up and sang Peaceable Kingdom, and you know, how would we end our first 30 years and inaugurated the next century? And so we looked in the audience and I said, I think I see a person who can help us, the boss, Bruce Springsteen. And he came up and he sang The Streets of Minneapolis, and then they all came out and sang Patty's iconic song, People Have the Power. And so when you ask about where do we go from here, that conversation with Clinton during the Gore-Bush race, I thought it was going to take a day. It took to determine who won, or at least to determine who would be president, 5 weeks. But ultimately, yes, the person who occupies that office sits in the most powerful position on earth, but there is a position more powerful. Yep, it's about people having the power. It's all of you together here in this room and people all over this country. It's the movements, and that's where we are today.
I love that. So we've heard about the anniversary, wonderful, got a great snapshot of what was going on in that historic Riverside Church. I love the way you passed the mic and shared the credit. We do want to hear a little more about you. We want to honor and celebrate you and have your perspective. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions if you bear with me. One of them is...
Good luck.
I'm here for it. The embed that was mentioned. People skip over what a turning point that was in journalism. And it seemed like it continued. Maybe Katrina woke journalism up a little bit to the jobs that needed to be done. But talk about how those maneuvers, embedding, the look here, not there, the being bamboozled, you always had a clear eye on what journalism was about. People censored themselves for access. What do we do now to help change and to rise up? You see the names of journalists that are doing that here, the local media, but talk a little bit about the strategies that have been used to change media.
Well, I've always referred to that access as the access of evil. Yeah, a little play on access of evil there. Trading truth for access. No, it's not worth it. The politicians need journalists more than journalists need politicians. And if it means walking out if you're not going to get an honest answer. I mean, for example, think about the Pentagon reporters now who are told they have to sign an oath that says they will not release classified information unless the Pentagon approves it. I mean, there's a reason why our profession, I call it our mission, journalism, is enshrined in the Constitution and the First Amendment. Because we're supposed to be the check and balance on power. And anything less than that is a disservice to a democratic society. And the flip side of that is freedom of the press is about the public's right to know. And you can't have a meaningful democracy unless you have information you can trust. Which is why I think democracy has grown from 9 stations in 1996 to maybe 8 stations in 1997. We're sort of going in the wrong direction. And then more and more stations, radio stations, till the 9/11 attacks, when just one station in New York, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, public access in New York, that was linked to the Community Media Center, that old firehouse we worked out of. And by the way, a huge shout out to TAN TV.
Yeah.
Broadcast us every morning. And to WZRD.
Yeah.
Independent media is so important, and as the legacy media breaks down, many newspapers shuttered as Trump sues one major network after another as they merge. And I really want to hear Carl's analysis of these corporate mergers, because he has signed on to a major challenge to the latest corporate merger. We are losing the public space, the areas where we can, the platforms that people can speak from. And they have become privatized, though they were all developed with public funds. That all has to be challenged, and we have to build independent media in this country and around the world. I really do think that when we cover war and peace, we cannot be brought to you by the weapons manufacturers. When we cover the climate catastrophe, and you know we've been to every UN Climate Summit from Copenhagen in 2009, right up into Belém, Brazil, the gateway to the Amazon recently and we will continue to do that. But when we cover the climate catastrophe, the fate of the planet, we can't be brought to you by the oil, gas, and coal companies. When we cover inequality, we can't be brought to you by the banks and the financial institutions. We have to be brought to you by you, the audience of listeners, viewers, and readers. An audience doesn't convey it at all. It's the citizenry. Yep, citizens and non-citizens, but citizens of the world.
Well, so much here. We've got a house that just loves us. I used to listen to you on Pacifica as well. But Carl, talk about making this work and talk a little bit more about the consolidation, because it also feels, I've seen it in academia, the people who capitulate fast are not the ones that really succeed. Your head's gonna roll no matter what. So talk about the film and then talk about the mergers, which we may have somebody buying the Daily Herald here in Chicago. We've seen it.
Thank you, Sylvia. Well, thank you for your work as a leader of the independent media in Chicago. When Amy talks about not brought to you by, and when Amy talks about these are our airways and they belong to us, she really means that. There's something behind it. It's not hyperbole, it's the truth. And we need to be really, really angry about that. And we need to put a stop to it. And we see it now in the form of media consolidation. This has been going on for a long, long time. We happen to have a president now who is very transparent about the transactional nature of the way he sees his job and responsibilities. And we see it with the way that he bullies media and trades favors for good coverage, and the impact of that. So what I would say in terms of looking forward, and I've learned so much of this from immersing myself in what Amy does and how she talks about this issue and understands it, is that so many people who've been working in the commercial media now they're coming around to Amy's point of view. They're coming around to what you advocate for, Sylvia, and they're going out on their own. They're either being laid off, because it's not getting any better out there. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' Washington Post, laid off half of their newsroom. It's crazy what's happening. And so a lot of these people, whether they're either leaving because they want to practice their craft the way that they intended to, Amy has created this model that shows how successful it is. People are flocking to democracy now. Well, there's so much to say.
Well, 30 years, somebody's flocking somewhere because you've been going strong that long.
Well, it's the same time as the media started, Democracy Now! Launched was like a month or so after Bill Clinton signed thank you, Bill Clinton, signed the Telecommunications Act into law, and which was a bipartisan effort that lifted these restrictions on monopolies, media monopolies. And Amy called it out then, that where it was going to lead us to where we are today. It's just now people can see it better. And while Democracy Now!'s star was rising and their audience was growing globally, the rest of the media was just the giant sucking sound down into a handful of corporations now.
That makes so much
sense. It
sense.
affects what we see and what we hear and how we understand the world.
And I remember what Reagan did around the FCC and others. We forget that Bill Clinton did this. It's such a bipartisan mess. I'd love to hear your reflections on the control of technology, streaming. Are you at all concerned about how conservative and controlled many of the platforms that people use every day for information have become? And are there safeguards that you have to make sure that your work can always go out over the air?
Well, I'll let Amy talk about how she approaches that with the daily news show and trying to reach an audience. But, you know, it occurs to me as we're releasing this film completely independently, right? We don't have any corporate support. We're relying on our audience to spread the word. We're relying on these amazing independent movie houses. Thank you, Music Box. Thank you for giving people a place to gather and experience something collectively, something that matters, something that's consequential. And so we're doing this independently because we want to show, well, because we want to build support for it in the independent media movement, and also we want to prove the gatekeepers wrong, because there are audiences for this film. We're in almost 150 theaters booked now.
Sold out here.
Sold out here. I know I got off the topic, but I want to tell everybody here, thank you for coming. Thank you for buying a ticket. Thank you for planning to leave your house and to go somewhere and to be an active person in the world. It means so much. And everybody who came here today is making it possible for more people to see the film all over the country, because the exhibitors are looking at it. They're looking at, I mean, our metric in this business is the box office, but they're seeing that people are coming out to see this film, and they're adding bookings every day. So we are going to be here, with Tia Lesson, the other director, joining us tomorrow, along with the legendary Juan Gonzalez. And we'll be here for 2 more screenings tomorrow, 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So, I'm sorry, 2:30 and 6. So please, please, please.
And there's information as you walk out. So
please tell people to come, because I can't say how important it is, because the audience is driving this. So we were relying on you guys.
And I mean, just your first weekend in New York City at the largest art house cinema, you can talk about.
Well, the film, it basically had a record-setting first and second weekend for a theatrical documentary at the IFC Center, and it was the strongest opening in 10 years. So, for a documentary, and then again, it's because of the audience, because of the subject matter, and it's because of this woman here.
And you were a top 10, so you've been in Chicago, like, Chicago loves you. Tell me about the title. How did that come about? And it feels like a good philosophy, but say more.
Right, I mean, it's the philosophy of democracy now, is steal the story, please. We consider an exclusive a failure, right? If it's just ours, then it didn't get out. We want the media to pick up the story, because we don't bring you just the typical pundits who know so little about so much, explaining the world to us and getting it so wrong, right? We bring you the people closest to the story. Whether we're talking about the standoff at Standing Rock, I thought we were going to have to elbow our way to the front. This was such an epic standoff with Native Americans in the United States, Indigenous people in Latin America, First Nations in Canada, thousands of people gathering, including thousands of non-Native allies taking on the Dakota Access Pipeline. When we got there Labor Day weekend, who would have thought we'd be the only ones covering this protest and then filming the dogs being sicked on the protesters with their mouths dripping with blood? It was an unbelievable sight. And we just posted online. You saw within 24 hours there were 14 million views. It came back to New York. A judge was going to rule on whether these bulldozers were actually allowed to be there to excavate a few days later. And the day before, the governor of North Dakota called out the National Guard before the court decision, concerned about what would happen. What I didn't know is that they also quietly issued an arrest warrant for me. Why? Because we filmed what was taking place. And you know, we took our lesson from, and I've always been so deeply moved, not to mention horrified, by the story of Emmett Till as we come here to Chicago. 14-year-old boy, mother Mamie Till sends him to be with his family, his aunt and uncle and cousins for the summer in Money, Mississippi. He goes there, he's lynched by a white mob, ends up at the bottom of the Tallahatchie River. When his body is sent back here to Chicago, his mother Mamie said, "I want the casket open for the wake and the funeral. I want the world to see the ravages of racism, the brutality of bigotry." Thousands streamed by his casket and saw, but then Jet magazine and other black publications took pictures of his mutilated, distended head, and they were seared into the history and consciousness of this country. Mamie Till Mobley had something very important to teach the press of today. Show the pictures. Show the images.
This is the town that does that. We did it with Fred Hampton's body following past his assassination as well. It is a powerful monument. You want people to come and see the film. You want people to tell these stories. What other guidance do you have supporting local media, putting your money where your mouth is? I will say I've been asking money for PBS locally and nationally for 30 years. So, and now PBS is gone. What else can
the
we do?
Corporation for Public Broadcasting is they have eviscerated it for public radio and television, and one of the things we've been doing as I travel with Carl and Tia around the country as they show this film, and by the way, even though we do television, Democracy Now! Is on 1,500 public television radio stations now around the world, I didn't know how much I didn't know about the world of film. But first going this film festival circuit, as you talked about Doc 10, they premiered at Telluride and DC Docs, and then went on around the country to show these films to audiences. And it has won over 15 audience favorite awards, which is the most important because it's just the people who walk in. Of all the films, sometimes it's best documentary, sometimes it's best overall film, or grand jury prize, or social justice award, from Santa Fe to Santa Barbara, from St. Louis to Savannah, Georgia, to Woodstock, New York, to Oslo, the Human International Film Festival. It is amazing, the response. And I hope this sends a message even to those that run the corporate platforms who decide what gets seen to the broadest audience, that there is a hunger for authentic voices closest to the story. I don't call anymore the corporate media the mainstream media. I do not think it reflects the mainstream. I really do think that those who care about war and peace, those who care about the climate, those who care about racial and economic justice, who care about reproductive rights, who care about LGBTQ issues, are not a fringe minority, not even a silent majority, but a silent majority, silenced by the corporate media, which is why we have to take it back and build a new media that reflects the voices of people, of all of you, not only all over this country, reporters know no borders, but all over the world.
Well, when we have that brave future, you will have been a model to make that happen. We do shout out the Chicago Independent Media Alliance, Haymarket, Palestine America, and Media Institute, Lumpen, Borderless, the Pub, everybody, City Girl, everyone who supports local media and supports truth-telling. I've enjoyed meeting you and Zazu. Our time here is just about over, but we do hope that you feel the Chicago love. Tell your friends and family to come out. We'll take a picture. Awards or local journals
Public
proms
narrative.
happening, look that up. It's on the Public Narrative website. So please give it up for Amy and